you enjoyed the ride.
So, for our newest retrospect review, let us celebrate 35 years of another Paul Verhoeven classic. That would be Total Recall, right, from 1990.
Right.
I say second film from him because, yeah, you know, the last time we talked about this guy's work was with RoboCop, right? When that turned 35 as well, right? Believe it or not, right? So yeah, just quick preamble as far as, you know, Total Recall, right? So, of course, this is based off of the Philip K. Dick short story, We Can Remember It For You, Halsey, right? For me, and, you know, of course, this is directed by the legendary provocateur that is Paul Verhoeven, right? I say that because, literally, the stuff that this man make, like, in the mid-80s up to now with Benedetta, right? Which was one of your favorite films of I think it was 2021, right? Yeah, and I saw it after the fact. I was like, yeah, boy, this should have been on my list too, right? Yeah, this man always finds a way to poke people, right? You know what I mean? You know, just really play with people's expectations when it comes to what they expect when they watch a film directed with, by him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I watching this over, I was like, oh yeah, I forget how fun and weird the filmmaking is in this. Especially with all of the makeup work. Like the makeup work is like really good and funny, but it's just so over the top and ridiculous. And I expect it to be. I forget how this was peak Verhoeven as well. I don't consider it as great as RoboCop, but it's still like, oh, they make the weirdness as it is. And you know, we could. There's a quick mention. Also, you can mention this as well. Is that the 2012 version with Colin Farrell, and I forget who was in Gale in it.
It was both Kate Beckinsale. Good choice. Right? Good casting choice, and Jessica Biel. Not saying that I have anything on. She is just, you know, why she was cast, right? You know why she was cast, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, so to me, the thing is that remake was closer to the short story, if I remember correctly. But I remember that just falling completely flat for me, compared to this. I thought that was terrible. Like, whilst this, I rewatching it, I gave it a rewatch yesterday, and I remember just thoroughly enjoying it. As it was, like, just didn't expect to enjoy it as much as it was. I remember the plot being pretty good. I was like, oh yeah, forget the twist in this was pretty good too. And I remember having a ton of fun with this as it was, just a solid, interesting, you know, mystery and little you know, twists back and forth about what's going on with respect to you know, the mind and whatnot. And they make it work, and I dug it. I dug it for what it was. And I just had a lot of fun with this. Just rewatching it. It's very silly. And does a lot of it is just so weird.
Yeah.
But it works. I just had a lot, mostly because it does have so much Arnoldisms in this, right? There's yeah, for no good reason you doing this, and especially most of the action sequences just had me cracking up. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Like, I remember having a lot of fun with this thing. And yeah, it is a sci-fi classic. It works.
Yeah, totally agree, man. Yeah, when I rewatched this, I was surprised. I forgot about how fun this movie was. Right, I think that is the clear difference between that film and the 2012 remake. Right, but I'll share my thoughts on the 2012 one in a bit. Right, so quick preamble time, just quick little history. Right, so of course I would have been like about 5 or 6 when this movie came out. Right, and I remember seeing the ads on TV. Right, but remember at the time I would have been like 5 or 6. Right. Believe it or not, this came out in the same year, right, where I actually saw my very first Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, which was Kindergarten Cop. Yes, right. I saw that in theaters. That was one of the first films that I saw in cinema, right? And I'll never forget, it was doubled, because remember back then there was something called a double feature. It was doubled with Ghost Dad. I'm going to leave it at that, right? I'm going to leave it at that, right? Kindergarten Cop actually came out in December, right? While this movie came out in June, right? Hence the reason why we celebrated this anniversary here, right? Swear to God, right? I believe that there was a soca song named Total Recall. And once that title became sort of part of lexicon after this, right? Like, you would hear about, Total Recall this, Total Recall that, right? When it comes to anything like parties or sales, whatever it is, right? But fun fact, it never aired on local television, right? And then when you see the content, it's like, I know why. It's kind of over the top of the violence, right? You know, same thing with RoboCop. They never show the RoboCop movie. They show the TV series. The live action one. Not the cartoon. Not the cartoon. They show the live action one, but they never show any of the movies.
Yeah, as you want in Canada,
yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? So I first saw Total Recall on a little station called WGN.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, you know, yeah. That was the station that introduced me to to Die Hard 2, right? You know, Mr.
Right.
Falcon, right? That was where I was first exposed to TV edits, right? Through WGN, right? Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, eventually, I think I saw it afterwards on Sci-Fi or USA or something like that, right? But I eventually saw the uncut version, right? Which is funny, right? Because there's the theatrical version, which people probably saw first, right? But then there was the uncut version where there was a few scenes tacked onto it. I'm not sure what was added to it. I can imagine it's just the stuff that people or censors felt was just a little too over the edge, and they just sort of cut it out because they didn't want the show to be rated NC-17 or some crap like that, right? But I mean, of course, the big sell of this movie was Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And I mean, at that time, he was on the rise, right? He was just blowing up with these movies, right? And it's so funny that the following year he would be in what is, in my opinion, the best action movie ever made, one of my top 10 favorite movies. One of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, Terminator 2: Judgment Day, which was the first movie that we reviewed when we rebranded as BBB Radio, right? So look at that, right? There was a Nintendo game for it, but I never played it
Yeah.
because I didn't have a console at the time. And I mean, back in the 90s when I was a kid, like when I was thinking about Nintendo, it was Mario, it was Street Fighter, it was Mortal Kombat. I never looked at movie tie-ins. I was like, oh my god, there's a game for this movie? Okay, I want to
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
that. I was like, no,
Yeah.
like
They
Mario,
they had
bro.
a ton of. They had a ton of movie tie-ins in that time period, like a ton, like Demolition Man or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, but I never cared to play them. It's just like, all right, so I can't sell them out here, right? Can sell myself out here. Yeah, when emulators were a thing, I was like, oh, there's a game for Demolition Man. All right, let me play it. All right, that's cool. Okay, all right, let me
Yeah.
move on to something else. that was it for me, right? But yeah, I was never crazy over movie tie-ins back then, right? I know that there was a TV series called Total Recall 2070. Never saw it because it was non-local TV. I think it was on Sci-Fi or something. Never saw it. Don't know what it's about, right? I don't know if it's a remake or a spin-off. I don't know, right? And then now, there was the 2012 remake, right? Which I remember being in theaters, but because of the reception that it got, I was like, nah, I didn't really care to see it, right? So after I watched the original one, I watched the remake for the first time ever, right? Getting the good out of the way, I thought that the visual effects were great, right? Very well done, right?
Yeah.
Although, my God, though, you have to remember, folks, right? This is post J.J. Abrams Star Trek, with Star Trek, which was 2009. Plus, the lens flare in that movie, though, in Total Recall, is like,
Yeah, for real.
what?
Yeah, for real.
Why,
Yeah, for real.
why though? But I have to remind myself, it's the early 2010s, but god damn though. That lens flare was ridiculous. Right? Like every single light source had to give off a flare. Like, come on, man, John, really? Right? But for me, right, it is not a terrible, terrible remake, right? But I felt that it was one that, even though it can make the argument that it stayed true more to the original, to the source material that the movie, that the original movie,
Yeah, fall flat.
yeah, it just fell flat. The reason being is
But-
the reason why the original movie worked so well is that there was a sense of fun and adventure
Yep.
within the mind fuckery. I'll bring that term up
Yeah.
later on, right? And the over the top violence. There was a sense of fun and adventure to what you were watching, right? Yes. I'm not gonna make the argument about why they add Mars in the first place, blah blah blah. But I'll get to
Right.
that in my when I do the break. Just pretty much just running through the film, right? I'll talk about how I feel the Mars stuff adds so much to the film itself, right? But
Yeah, just the look of it, and they justify like why they kind of justify it, but it was a bit of a stretch, to be honest.
yeah,
But
it
the
is,
original story.
right? Yeah, but in this one, they just whittled it down to two factions, basically two countries at war. And all right, Bryan Cranston was there as a villain, but okay, whatever. Kate Beckinsale, I would not lie, was a great casting choice to play Laurie because Laurie have to play the whole sex symbol thing, but she had to be a badass, right? When she does a heel turn, right? We'll get into that later, right? Jessica Biel to me was just there because she was kind of big, and they try to sell she off as, all right, not just a sex symbol, but also she could be in action movies or horror films. So like she was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which was okay, I like it. But she was also in Blade Trinity. And
Right.
nobody cared for that film, right? Sorry to say, right? But yeah, it just like and all right, agree to disagree, right? That the remake. While I was watching this, right? Compare this to the original. And you have to remember, the original was one of the last films to really incorporate practical effects, right? I think it's when Terminator 2 dropped. That's when you got like real VFX. Like when VFX was front and center with the T1000, right? I think that was the show that really put it out there, right? But when I'm watching the remake, I'm there like, all right, yes, I know that I'm in a dystopian future, right? But I can't tell you that there was a shot that made me feel that I was in that made me believe that I was in that world. It was in this weird spot visually, right? Where I know that the visuals I'm seeing here look stunning, right? But they never looked real. They never looked practical. It just felt like
Yeah.
everybody was just in a green room or or in a blue painted set, whatever it is. I never got the sense that I was watching real stuff, right? I'll make mention of one other film as a wrap up here, right? So I will compare this to a little movie called Minority Report. Still one of the
Right.
best Steven Spielberg movies ever made, in my opinion, right? That film felt like you were in that world. It looked real enough, even though, yes, I am seeing hover cars. And funny enough, Total Recall also, the remake also had hover cars in it as well, right? I thought that was really interesting, right? In case you know, actually, the writers of the original film wanted to do a sequel and they wanted to take Philip K. Dick's short story, The Minority Report, and use that to make the sequel, but that didn't play out, right?
Right.
So eventually, years later, Steven Spielberg made that into a film. Great movie, in my opinion, right? But going back to the Total Recall remake, right? Compare that film to Minority Report. Yes, it looked futuristic, it looked stylish or whatnot, right? But Minority Report felt real. It felt like I was in a real world, right? Similar to Blade Runner, right? Which is also a Philip K. Dick adaptation, right? It felt like you were
Right.
in a real world, right? And yes, I mean, I had to say it, right? You know, as somebody who loves Blade Runner, right? Yeah, boy, that Total Recall remake was wearing its Blade Runner influences on its sleeve, boy. So much references to that show, right down to the Japanese kanji and all that kind of stuff, right? The neon stuff.
Right.
Like, oh lord, but and right down to the rain and shit. You're like, oh, all right, yes, you love Blade Runner, but come on, tell the Total Recall story, right? And boy, just as a wrap up here, right? They really try to make you sell the whole thing about Douglas Quaid, who is played by Colin Farrell here, right? Yeah, boy, you know him, being brainwashed or what he's seen isn't real and all that kind of stuff. It was so much more convincing in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie than it was here, right? But yeah, not the worst movie I've ever seen or worst remake I've ever seen. But yeah, I felt like it just missed the point of the original film, which was one, there was the fun and the adventure aspect of it, but other, you're supposed to be playing with the audience's mind. You have to keep playing with them, and yes, that's one of the biggest strengths of the original film, right? It kept playing with the whole idea of what are you seeing? What you're seeing here, is this real or is this part of the memory that Recall made? It kept playing that to the very end, even right down to the character going to Mars. Is all of this real? You know what I mean? It kept playing that to the very end. Throughout the remake, I was like, I don't care. I don't care if this is real or not. Because to me, the entirety of what I saw here was real. There was no moment where I felt like it was all in Douglas's mind, right? But that's all I'll say about that, right? But yeah, that's my sort of longish preamble as far as my history with Total Recall, right? But yeah, Ricardo, take it away, your history with the film. I don't know if you saw the series, and yeah, I could touch briefly on the remake as well. 'Cause I know you saw it when it came out.
No, yeah. For me, it was the conceit of it as a remake. It just like again you're closer to the source material, but like it's not really working and it fall flat. I really couldn't care. I remember seeing that in South. I forget where is the cinema next to Scotiabank. And I just remember walking and thinking, all right, this might be all right. And I just remember this being so terrible and not working at all. Like, all right. And it's only one person I just really defend that movie, Jared. So that's about it. It really much we cannot talk about. For this, yeah, I saw this years later. Didn't see it when it came out. When I watched the movie at the time, this was, I don't know, in '95 on cable sometime. I was like, oh yeah, I understand why. And it was just again the visuals was weird. It was nice and creepy, really funny and strange, but it was just really interesting and funny for what it was and what it was trying to do and say. It's its own thing. And yeah, again, it's mostly because of Verhoeven. Verhoeven just bringing his style and his weirdness to the whole thing, and just these changes of the whole conceit, and then what the story have to say and do about involving corporate power, and Verhoeven always was a critique of this kind of corporatized capitalism, cyber dystopian kind of approach to things. We saw that in RoboCop, and again it here as well. And it's just the abuse of technology or whatnot. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with this. We could go through it as it was, but I just had a lot of fun with this, mostly because of how weird everything looks. There's a lot of Star Trek people in this. I forgot. Well, the main villain is Captain Jellicoe in this. And then you have, I think, the guy who's the taxi driver is Robert Picardo, who played the Doctor. And then I think Mark Iemo was in this. He's played Gul Dukat. I was like, okay, that's some little people who show up. It just a lot of fun. I dug it for what it was, and I enjoy it as it is. So yeah, it's that. So we could go through it if you want.
So yeah, of course I wrote down some notes, but I'm just gonna run through the story as fast as I can. But we'll make comments on thoughts on those moments, right? Yeah, the film score, which was composed by the late great Jerry Goldsmith, one of my favorite film composers, still slaps in my opinion. I love that it has this very very tense, very dramatic, but it's very adventurous as well, right? It ropes it in, right?
It's very heavy industrial kind of song to the whole thing.
Yeah,
It
that
starts off, and I thought that was a really
yeah.
really strong. Yeah. And it starts off great. It sets up the movie. I remember I saw, okay, because of the adversary film, I saw somebody complain about how old it is and how slow this is and that kind of thing. And I was supposed to the person was making a joke, like making a joke of how we have bad attention spans kind of thing now. And I was like, nah, for real it was real hard though. Like it was a real like great set the mood kind of stuff with I think, and I watched it on cable. Like, yeah, back then I had something, mimicking a big TV. At the time, that I had a old. Well, what happens is that I had an old projector that I got, and it had a relatively fresh bulb in it. So back then, bulbs mattered to projectors, right? But yeah, and I remember just watching it on that, and I was like, oh yeah, right, this would have set the mood for that vibe though. So like, it worked. It's great.
It does, right? And the opening sequence of this is brilliant, though. For one thing, right, I love how it sets up the sort of pulpy, Flash Gordon sort of approach to, hey, astronauts on Mars, right? So basically we see Arnold Schwarzenegger's character and Rachel, Ticotin, right? Who I am not familiar with her work at all. I just only remember her name with this movie. Apparently she was in Grey's Anatomy, but like I was probably one of the few people in the world who never watch that movie series,
Right.
I don't know. I just heard a lot of shit about it. I just didn't care, right? Whatever, right? But yeah, this intro is great, right? So of course the moment that everybody remembers is when Arnold's character slides down this mountain. He cracks his visor. I just get this shot of him, like his face as he loses his breath, right? And of course Paul Verhoeven, just being Paul Verhoeven, is just like, here's what I really gotta make this shit so over the top and visceral that you have no choice but to watch this unless you scare easy and just run away, right? Yeah, boy, just seeing this man eyes bugging out, the tongue sticking out.
Yeah.
I just like,
Well, they make fun of, well, they kind of foreshadow this with when oh gosh, I forget the character, the villain, where he kick over the fish tank. So
yes,
fish, like,
yes,
yeah.
Oh, just to touch on that, right? Even though that comes in like in the climax, right? I forgot about that moment though. Him kicking down that fish tank. Right?
Basically what happens at his plan. Well, the big plan at the end is that you find out, oh yeah, Arnold's original personality was also a villain. Is his friend. So when he lose him, he and Arnold escape is like, well, they have no way to like get back his friend now.
Yeah,
so, like the plan failed in that sense. Because the plan was to bring back the friend, and that was the consciousness, and you see them at the party later. But it's typical James Bond dumbness by not making sure to see the process out. No, you gotta leave.
Yeah.
I'll see at the party.
I'll see you at the party, right? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on just this intro with Mars and Arnold going just the visceral nature of it all now.
Yeah, there's just the fun aspect of it again is the whole fake out of it to pay off later. It's just funny again. It's more shock value than anything, but it works. It's just a good starting point.
And then, of course, you realize it's just a dream, right? And, well, the person who is dreaming is called Douglas Quaid, right? Who is this construction worker, right? He's married to Laurie, who is played by Sharon Stone. And just to touch briefly, yeah, I mean, for many millennials, I should say people who were just way too young to see Total Recall in theaters, right? So we didn't know. After the fact, we found out, oh, Sharon Stone in this movie too, okay. But yeah, when it came to Sharon Stone, of course, the movie that really sold her was Basic Instinct, right? I'll never forget in 92.
Right.
That was big. That was big. And especially that poster, that poster, yeah. right? Whatever. But yeah, it's so funny in retrospect. Like when you first see the movie, it's like, oh, she in this too, right? Yeah, I think that she is well cast here, right? Because I mean, she looks great, and the other silly fact that this construction worker has a smoking hot wife and all that kind of stuff, right? I should also mention quickly with Sharon Stone, we will see her a couple months later in another movie called Nobody 2. Yes, she's going to be
Right.
playing the villain in that. I am really curious to see how she plays that, right? I mean, last time she played a villain that was Catwoman. Anyway, moving on, right?
Right.
But yeah, you learn that Mars is actually colonized and it's not the desert planet that we see in the dream, right? I thought that was
Right.
really interesting,
Right.
right? And then there's like these citizens that, well, on the planet, and there's this radical group of terrorists. Well, they call them terrorists
Right.
on the news, right? And they try to stop the extraction of this ore called turbinium.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on, right? And then, well, the leader of the group is called Koatu, right? So we just heard about
Right.
this through this news report, right? I like how, just acted wise, right? I like that Arnold is showing himself here as the everyman, right? Like, yes, we know going into the show he got flexy muscles, flexy biceps, sorry, and shoot people and punch people and kick ass, right? We know that, right? But I like that here he's established as this everyman. So I like that early on, we kind of wondering, wait, nah, so you and she, like, all right, I could see the two of it together, but you a construction worker though. I could also see that too, but still, right out the gate though, you could tell like something a little off, but you're not really sure what it is, right? And I just like, just early on though, just the visual effects here, right? So there's a moment where he is in the subway, he's going to work, right? And you get that famous shot where he's going by this metal detector like visual, right? And you see his skeleton, right? What I like though is that you see him walking into the frame and then into that display, and you see the skeleton display and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really cool. Like, it's very, very clever use of visual effects, right? Again, I think it's mostly practical, right? There's probably like, I think there's some Mac paintings here or there, right? But I think that it is, there isn't much like VFX in it. I know that there is, right? But it's sort of blended so well that you can't really tell what it is unless you really look carefully, right? But I like that one moment with the display, right? That's really cool, right? I like that on the subway train now. That's where Douglas learns about recall in incorporated, right? I love how they sell it too, right? Oh, why spend so much money to go to Mars when just we plant a memory and that's all they need. And and I love that it, again, going back to Verhoeven and capitalism. Yeah, it's cheaper. So yeah, let's go with recall, right? And also mad points for that jingle that for the memory of a lifetime, recall, recall, recall. It's simple, but I like it. It works, right? It works. It's very RoboCop-esque in terms of, we touched about advertising, we touched about on capitalism, right? Get it, right? And of course, Douglas signs up fit, right? And there's a nice little Easter egg now where Douglas goes into recall, right? And he signs his name, right? But the person he's supposed to meet, right, the representative, his name is Bob McLean. So there's a moment where you see this machine, right? This sort of like ATM like looking machine, and it's a display, and you see Mr. McLean. And when I saw that, I was thinking, oh, that's like Die Hard, right? Where when Bruce Willis comes to the Nakatomi Plaza, there's a moment where he's looking for his wife, and because his wife changed her surname from from McLean to whatever her original name is. Yeah, he couldn't find it. So I saw that as a nice little reference to that film, right? Where the movie really shines now is where, Douglas signs up for this 2-week vacation memory package, right? And he wants it on Mars, right? But he is given the option now to play a role. And in this case, he gets to play the role of a secret agent, right? I love that the option is called the ego trip. Ha 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 ha. Get it, right? Yeah, and he signs up for that, right? And in a meta way, and in an action hero meta kind of way, I should say, I like how this moment actually works though, because yes, this everyman who is played by Arnold Schwarzenegger is now given the option to play the role of a secret agent where he will basically look and fit the partner. You know what I mean? So I like that. But even like a secret agent though, like you take it, Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Bond, no. But in this world, it kind of makes sense though. Like he is playing a role, right? So it's that sort of meta on top of meta kind of aspect about, the decision making that he makes it. I really, really like, right? So of course, when he sets up in the chair and the process happens now, shit starts to go haywire, right? He starts spazzing out. He's struggling to break out for the straps or whatnot, right? And afterwards, like he just yells out, "You blew my cover!" Right? And you just
Right.
like, "What? Blew your cover?" Right? So yeah, right there set with that. Oh, this guy is a double agent or whatever it is. But then if so, did somebody like suppress his memories? So you're really
Right.
not sure what's going on here. Though. So I just love like early on in the film how it just plays on the whole idea of what is real, right? And I will mention a certain film which is your favorite action movie, I would say, of all time. But you could see the influences on that film, on this film, show up on that movie, right? Yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on just those early moments with Douglas and him learning about recall, and then of course him flipping
Yeah, it's a
out on
nice.
that stuff.
Yeah, we kind of accustomed to the conceit now, but it's a really interesting. Like, oh, this would have been like a nice mind screw concept back in the past, no? Back then. So it's like, oh shit, what the hell going on here? But they're real clever though. And I really like what they did with that. As it is. Yeah, I thought it set up a good thing. It set up a good mystery. It set up good tension because like it flipping and going back and forth of what the hell going on here. And I really dug that. Starts great, strong conceit again because we have 35 years of format sci-fi and knowing to be fake reality stuff. This is actually a good twist too. And I at the time I don't know how many people read the original short story to know what going on anyway. You know? So it's fine. It's great.
Yeah, it is right. Afraid to ask this, but you ever read the short story or you just didn't care? Cause you not a Philip K.
Yeah,
Dick person.
yeah. No, I read the short story. I just read it. Like whatever. It's a, you know, no thing for me. Again, I didn't. I only read it just to say I read it. You know, not like yeah. I read it. It's fine.
Okay, cool. At least somebody here read it,
Again,
right?
I know, well, you read it in the time of thing. Again, this would have been really like impressive when he wrote it, no, but not now. Like, all right, I see how many stories and plot devices and video games and thing, you know, and pop culture stuff that address the same concept. But it then, but back then it was pretty cool. But right now, by the time I wrote it, it was like, okay, it's a cliched piece of media. You appreciate it for what it was, like at the
Yeah.
time. So that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
We got a truly memorable moment for me though, where Doug wakes up in this taxi cab. It's called a
Right.
Johnny Cabin, right? We introduced to this driver, this droid driver, right?
Right.
But I love the design of
This
it
is
though, how it looks
yeah,
like
that's played
this.
by that's modeled and voiced by Robert Picardo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is
Right.
really
So
interesting
that's it.
though. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I do like the sort of retro '50s look to him. The way how he talks,
Yeah.
like, "What's your destination?" Like the way how he
Yeah.
looks and talks. It's very retro '50s. That's really cool as well, right? There's a nice twist that follows though, where one of Dog's co-workers, right, by the name of Harry, right? Yeah, well, we find out that he actually is an agent of sorts. So
Right.
well, some of his friends try to gang up and try to, yeah, basically rub out Douglas, right? And yeah, Doug
Yeah.
kicks ass. He shoots some people in the head, breaks some bones. And like, wow, like we going real hard with the violence, right? And just in general, I love how yeah, just how Paul does not hold any punches as far as the violence goes in this, right? There's a lot of shootouts in this movie.
A lot of squib. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
a
squib
lot of
work in
squib
this.
work, boy. Boy, I was just
Yeah.
watching, like, god damn, boy. Like again, it's RoboCop shit, right? There's a lot of squibs, a lot of fake blood in it, right? But it's just the visceral nature of it that works, right? But yeah, I mean, the twist don't stop here, right? Yeah, because Doug runs back home and then you realize, oh, Lori in it as well too, right? And she get a nice little, little fight scene here or there. Of course, she kick Arnold in the nuts, so and it's just Arnold reaction, "Yar, yar," and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
right? But given the character that he's played as in Douglas Quaid, I like that he is not like he's shocked at what going on there. It's like, yeah, like you're my wife for like 6 years. We try to kill me for blah blah blah, right, or whatever it is, right? But it works, right? And then you find out that yeah, she didn't even know about him till like, oh sorry, well apparently, well according to Douglas, he thought that he was married to Lori for 8 years, right? But she only knew him for
Right.
6 weeks, and it was just, well, basically
Right. It's
yeah,
recorded.
right. So is this memory implant that was planted in Douglas's mind to make him think that he
Right.
was married to Lori, right? So just those
Well,
reveals though really work.
yeah, that's the thing. It's multiple layers to this because it's
Yes.
like what it could put in and stitch in as it is. Because they reveal all this at the end, and like with the big reveal of
Yeah.
what's going on. It's a good like layers of stitching into it now. Like you have no way to know for sure, right? Unless you could verify it and have a handful of people who know the truth. Because you can imagine they themselves would just never dabble in this technology to undermine themselves. There's a great episode of Stargate
Mm.
that plays with this premise. I forget the name of the episode exactly, but it does the same thing, but it involves a murder. I thought Stargate did the Total Recall thing so much better. Again, they had layers to address it.
Right.
But yeah, it's that same conceit of what is real and what's not, but not so much about that, but like what information reliable as it is, give it. And again, great mystery and tension because you as the audience member don't know what the hell going on.
Exactly.
Like why? It's only until at the end they reveal, and if you're willing to accept that information, I mean, I'm willing to accept it. Go as a movie, time to wrap up the story.
Yeah.
But they make it work for what it was because it's like who doing what and why, and especially with respect to time.
Yeah.
They make that work. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. This gets into they get to one of the funniest parts, and again, great costume work, but it's so over the top where he had to pull the thing out of his head.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We will get to that.
Still crack me up. I should have still cracked me up to this day, boy.
Right. Yeah. So, well, two things, right? One, I like that Laurie says, I didn't know about you till 6 weeks ago, right? That's a nice little piece of, narrative setup there, right? Then also you find out that she's working for the agency, right? They learned early on in news report that this agency is pretty much run by the governor of the Martian colony, which is Cohagen, right? Who is played by Ronnie Cox. If you remember him from RoboCop, he played Dick Jones. He's one of the real shady corporate people.
Yeah, there's another Star Trek person. He makes a guest star. He guest stars in one of my favorite episodes. Chain of Command, Captain Jellicoe. So yeah.
All right, actually, not surprised that he was in a Star Trek show, right? That's really
but he plays an asshole, but he doesn't play a villain.
Oh, okay.
But not a villain. Actually, he's a great character. Like, what they do with him and how they do it. But yeah, he's great in that. Yeah, Ronnie Cox, you can't go wrong. He's always play Dick Bag corporate guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's why his name in RoboCop was Dick Jones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So there's a chase scene that follows, and it's between Doug and you see Cohagen's goons. One of them actually is Richter, right? Who is actually the real boyfriend of Laurie, and he's played by Michael Ironside, which is always a name that pops up as a side character or bit role in many 90s films, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's great in this. Like, I really like him as basically the main henchman, asshole type.
He's an asshole boy. He's an asshole boy.
There's a great moment to him at the end that I love, right, where he say, when he right before he's gonna like recall all of the old memories, that shit still cracks me up. Because Arnold. It's great stuff. Like, what to do with that, and then the reveal with him. With his relationship with who you find out who can do how and why, and his role in it, because like learning what he didn't know was interesting. Like, okay, that's a good reveal. Because like he was like a good misdirection. Okay, thinking, all right, well they really want to kill him now, because of his actions and what he was doing.
Yeah.
Instead of just bringing him in, it's like, oh no, he was out of the loop, and I was like very clever and smart, even though it's one of those. The plan a little too convoluted and could have backfire, but they address it.
True. Yeah.
They address it in the plot line. It's like, oh yeah, you could have fucked this up, like, but it worked out. So it's fine.
Back to that metal detector though. I love that shot though where he runs through. It's like, oh shit, he has a gun, right? And then the guys running it notice that they come in, right? Yeah. They about to shoot him, and he bursts through that window. Yes. Now,
they time it. Yeah, it's a great like animation visual sequence. Yeah, it looked great.
Now, minor nitpick, right? I would have loved if that shot where you see the skeleton and then Arnold bursts through. I wish that shot ran just a few seconds longer, because right as he bursts through the glass, it cuts that side view. I was like, man, like it could have showed him burst through water. I was like,
Yeah, no, they clearly fuck up the timing. Like so they had to like do the side cut to make it cut, because how I interpret it is that it's not just a single glass frame. No, it's multiple.
Good point.
So it take a little while for him to get from point A to point B in terms of the jump. So is that we call it that it's called it by chrono paralysis. No? I mean, in timing of how your perception should work, and that's like typical like film editing like stuff. No, but they make that work. Like again, to me, I just thought because of the nature of the animation, how kind of janky it is. Look, it's still 1990, right?
Yeah.
It didn't remember you did have James Cameron yet to like fancy everything up just yet, right?
That's
so
true.
It was still 80s, a lot of kind of borderline stop motion-y kind of stuff going on. But yeah, I think it looked good, but at the time they clearly messed the timing up. It always come and look like you could only take that shot and run with it. They could like do over the shot because of the nature of the set or whatever it is. I got the feeling that was a one take, and they kind of slightly fuck up the take. It always felt like that.
Right. Yeah. So now we get to the iconic towel head moment, right? Yeah, I think that's what it's called now, right? Tall head, right? Yeah, that's the moment where you see, Arnold with a towel around his head, a sort of a green towel around his head, right? And it starts off with Doug hiding out in this hotel, right? And then this random guy calls him and is like, look, yeah, you don't meet me outside, I have this suitcase. You told me to meet you out here. Come fit, right? It's like, dude, I don't know you, right? So I love, again, the show keeps playing on, who to trust her and what we should believe, right? So I love that, right? And then, well, basically he tells him that, there was a bug, implanted in the skull that is being used as a tracking device, right? So that's how Cohagen's goons was able to track it, right? So yeah, then a little later on that, that random guy also worked with Doug, and they both worked at the agency. It's like, oh, okay, what's going on, right? But yeah, basically to disrupt the signal, Doug has to take this wet towel and tie it around his head, right? And then like right afterwards, you see the guy was making the call right outside of the hotel at this phone booth, right? And then basically Doug goes outside to collect the suitcase, right? This is really like dumb part where he leaves the suitcase and runs off, right? This one dumb part where this random woman, this old woman come and take it, and then Arnold take it up and is like, and she's like, no, this is not your suitcase. It doesn't have your name on it. Like, I understand in terms of like adding to the tension, right? 'Cause remember, he's still being chased, right? But it's like, bitch, that's not your suitcase. Like, let go of it. What the fuck?
So
right?
it is. But that's what makes the Verhoeven movies work. All these small little character interactions in the background. This how you crack it up and make it work because, like, this world is kind of trash, right? Like, it's
it is. It's kind of trash. Yeah.
That's such a trash people in the world. All these little small bullshit things that you had to deal with. But yeah, they make it work for what it is.
Yeah, and then of course, well, you get a nice the chasing continues on now because Doug goes into another Johnny Cab, right? I love how they join this, like, where do you want to go? It's like, anyway, let's just go, shit, right? It's like, I don't know where that is. Can you please specify your destination, right? And I keep saying Anna, right? And Doug pulls out the Johnny Cab though and throws it out, right? I love that. That's that one moment is like, F this. Pull it out and then he drives off with it, right? That was a nice moment, right? So eventually ends with him at this abandoned cement factory, right? A Doug opened up the suitcase and he finds some items in it, right? I love how very secret agent it is. It actually reminds me, believe it or not, of the first Born Identity movie, right? I'll never forget there was this moment where he get the safety deposit box, and you see the currency, the dollar bills, and you see the fake passports, right? It really reminds me of Born Identity, right? Where it's like, oh shit, this man like. And it kind of plays, believe it or not, it now dawned on me. And it actually plays on the whole, this man really is an agent, you know what I mean? But then when he opened this thing, like, yes, this man actually is. This man has a history. He's been doing this for a while now. So you see the secret agent stuff already in this film. I love that.
Yeah. It's great. It still builds the tension because now he see himself on the screen now. It's like, hey, what's going on here? Like, and now it's time for him to give himself future instructions, and he had to listen to himself because he'll listen to himself. And so on and so forth. And they make a lot of clever conceits about it. I thought it was good. Yeah. Again, this gets into, easily one of the funniest parts of him, time to take out this thing out his head.
What you going to get to?
That fit in your head. This part cracked me. That fit in your head.
That's a good point. That's a good point, right? But I should mention one last thing before we jump into that moment, right? I forgot about the hologram device that is in that suitcase too. That works, right? It's a nice effect, right? And how it plays out in the third act though, I was like, yep, Paul, do your thing, right?
Yeah, the reveal is great, yeah.
But dog, I can't be the only one who watched this moment, right? Where you're seeing the real dog, right? Well, in this case, his name is Hauser, right? Talking, and it's a video message, right? That's Severance, Shred. That is straight up Severance. It's two identities, but one identity saying, look, what you think is really not what you think, eh? Who am speaking to you in this video message, I tell you what really going on here. That's Severance. I was like, what? Like,
it's not new concept. Again, it's Severance. No. But it's not new concept.
I know. But it just hit me now. Like, real person talking to fake identity person. I love that, right?
Exactly.
But we had to get to that moment, right? Which, is... all right. It's great prosthetics, and it's just a funny moment in general, right? It's one shot in it that had me cracking up, right? I feel you probably crack up in it as well too, right? But you find out that Douglas Quaid is not real, and Hauser used to work for the agency, used to work for Cohagen, but then he met a woman, and it's like, the resistance matters, so blah blah blah, right? So you had to do this, or else we both die, right? We both die in quotes, right?
Right.
But to do that now, you had to take out the same tracking device, right? It located in
Right.
your skull. Here's this device, shove it up your nose and pull it, right? And the moment I saw the device and the process, I was like, yeah, that's where the Wachowskis got the idea for the Matrix, right? With the whole track device that Neo had. Oh, right, right. Well, which was in his
Okay. Yeah. Kind of.
in his stomach actually.
Yeah. Similar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Similar
like,
idea. Yeah.
hey,
Very similar.
yeah,
Similar.
Matrix shit. Ah, I see
Right.
where they come from,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
But yeah,
Right.
the cell though is him push this device up his nose and
Yeah.
pulling
For
out
real.
this circular
And then
object. Okay, in my mind, I think it is
this
something
massive marble.
yeah,
Like this big, the man, if you know what a bigoons is, anyone knows what a bigoons is? A big fucking bigoons in the man's skull. You're like,
yeah.
how you fit that? Now that
That's-
shit cracked me up, eh?
In my mind,
And
I
like,
thought it was
you think it's
like in my mind, I thought it was
Think
gonna
of
be
ping pong
like
ball,
like I thought it was gonna be like something like a nailner, you know what I mean? Something like
Right.
a small little drillner, you know, something like how
Right.
the track device with Neo was, right? But then when you show me
Right.
this big circular thing, like what? And you had to pull it out
Yeah,
of his nose, right? But here's the shot that had me
Yeah.
cracking up, right? So you're seeing Arnold reacting, right? And nose and he face contoured, like right?
Yeah.
They cut back to the video footage of Hauser watching this, right? And you have this smile on his face, like, yes, keep going. I nearly dead when I see that to us. It's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
reaction, like, yes, do it, yes. It's like the man pulled out the fucking marble out he knows. You're like,
Yeah,
yes.
basically a big ping pong ball.
Yeah, but no, that moment had me cracking up, right? But yes, just to get your thoughts, right? Yeah, that is easy one of the most iconic moments in the movie. And again, it's just Paul pretty much saying, yeah, I go in over the top of this, I go in visceral with this, I gotta show you shit where people is gonna do shit, and you just have to buy into all of this, right? But yeah, it is to grow, it's meant to gross you out, but in retrospect, it's some funny ass shit, right? But yeah, your thoughts on the tracking device extraction scene.
Yeah, no, that shit just cracked me up every time. Because it's a great prosthetic, eh? Like, it's just him and the nose stretching and the opening and he had to pull this thing out. Like, you know, in a different scenario, they would have it where it would be like some kind of way to fall into your brain or something like that. Like how they do it in Matrix, where it's a creature but small and it had to like fall into your body and it could be in his stomach, so it makes some sense why there. But where does fitting in? That means this thing had to be in his sinus. You know, feeling that. That just whatever. Let's move it on.
Yeah, and you know you can make the argument. Oh, you know, I don't know where this term came from. Where basically you could kind of pull someone's brain or brain tissue from your nose, something like that. But that's
Right, yeah.
tissue though, but not an actual like
No, no,
metallic,
like.
you know, ball.
No, but I say you have to literally scramble the brain. Like that's how they used to make mummies in Egypt.
Right.
But
That's where it came from. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just think about it is like it maybe is like a ball that is the body will squeeze down, and so when he pulling it out, it's expanding as he pulling it out. No, like it's just like a balloon no, or something like that. But I think it looked like a hard plastic ball. However, moving on.
Moving on, right? But yeah, basically he's told afterwards, yeah, you know, dog, go to Mars and take down Cohagen, right? And that's it, right? And you'll know what to do when you reach, right? So about the Mars stuff, right? So you know it's after the fact you find out that was not part of the original story, right? Going back to what I said earlier, why I think Mars is here in this film and why it works, right? Think about it, right? This is a secret agent film, right? But this is a sci-fi film, right? That is, you know, that touches on space travel as well, right? So think about it like a James Bond film, right? Instead of going to Monaco or to Shanghai or to, I don't know, London or some place like that, right? Why not Mars? I think that just in terms of the conceit of just, oh, it's the future, it's a sci-fi show we doing here, and we could travel to space. Yeah, I think Mars makes a lot of sense, right? Even though, yes, it's not in the source material, right? So I can kind of understand the remake saying here as well, well, we're not going to do the Mars stuff because everybody knows about the Mars stuff. Let me try to stay true to it. But our whole two nations fighting against each other just didn't work for me. It did not, it wasn't as captivating as the Mars stuff, in my opinion, right? But anyway,
Yeah. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit of Kim Stanley Robinson now aspect of it coming into that aspect of it because I think it's an okay change. But to me, the main reason I think they did the change is just the look, right? Those sets are the greatest. I think
Yes.
that red hue to everything looks great and sets up a lot of the action and dynamic. Yeah, the blue screen, green screen stuff, the whole up at all, like, especially but it's only because I watch it in 4K.
yeah, it's one of those things where you could tell where you are seeing for now we'll call it a blue screen shot, right? Where you will see
There's a
like
hard border.
Yeah,
real
right.
hard border around there.
And you'll see like the skin tones change up a bit. I don't know what the term is. I had to look it up, right? Where when you
Yeah.
know you're watching a VFX shot in old films, right?
Yeah,
But the
it's the
tone
lighting,
of it,
yeah,
like
the
the
lighting
colors
and
look
stuff.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the lighting and then it just feel like unfinished shot. What happens that in lower quality back when you was watching this in 480p or even less than that back in standard definition, you
Yeah.
don't notice.
Yeah.
Even on a big screen, you won't notice. But back now when you have 4K and fancy, and I watched the Blu-ray edition recently.
All right. All right.
Yeah, look, you could see it. It's real blatant. They ain't gonna upgrade it for modern times. They aren't time
No.
for that. They too much money.
Yeah,
So that's
and it's
yeah,
completely unnecessary, right? But yeah, now we get to the famous checkpoint moment, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
great.
this is
This is the most famous scene in the movie, and this still look pretty good. Although Arnold, they use a weird thing for Arnold because he looked kind of weird and fat, and then they cut back to him and it's like all that fat on the neck gone.
oh yep. That's a good
I
criticism.
don't know why.
Yes.
No, I don't know. I think it's because of the like he had to take a chemical to fill in the mask face itself. Like, if I remember correctly, I think it is in the book. But it went away. It went away too quickly. So that's about it.
That's true because yes, his
right.
skin, like his face, his skin tone on his face now looks kind of pinkish now, and then when you cut
Right.
back to the next shot, it looked normal, like normal.
No, it looked swollen. It looked like his face looked like to fill the because I forget the actress name, but it's a fat woman face they get
Right.
to fill the space up. So that's why it looked. That's why to get the movements of have him be seamless when he had to use a sneak past.
Yeah.
It looked great.
I think it does. But note to self. I need to look up who that actress is though, because I swear
Yeah,
I
I can't
see
remember. I can't remember.
in another show somewhere, some 90s film or something like that, right? But yeah, that's the moment where he comes in under this new identity as this fat woman now, and then the guards asking for a passport. How much you saying? 2 weeks, right? All right. Do you have any food stuff on you? 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, 2 weeks, right? And then she starts spazzing out on some Evil Dead shit now. Cause like, you'll be like twisting and contorting, right? And then, yes, you are right. That moment though, where he like disables the mask, cause it's basically a mask on his face, right? That to me is the money shot. That shot of the mask like splitting down, like dividing, and then he lifts it up. That is the money shot. That moment like burnt into my psyche the first time I saw it. I would say if there's one shot that defines that whole movie, it's that in my opinion, right? It's just when it cuts back to it afterwards, his face look normal, like the skin tone looks normal. But yes, when he disarms the mask or or takes it off, yes, he has this weird pink. But the face looks swole, but the tone of it, like his skin tone, is very pinkish as well. So it's kind of weird, right? But it adds to the weirdness of that moment, right? But yeah, in terms of just prosthetics and just visuals, though, is fantastic. But yeah, any thoughts on the reveal of the face?
Yeah, it looked cool. It's a great sequence, and Michael Ironside's character pick up on it. He's like, "Oh, this dicey fellow," because he knew the technology or whatever it is. Somebody trying to sneak past the thing because they couldn't find him at all, and they would have found him eventually. So it looked great. Great sequence, look good. Get kind of weird, but there's the kind of stuff like if you I don't know, if you were to remake it, you remake this movie, and I get why the 2012 film decided to forego all of that, but it's all these weird like beats is what made this film memorable. And I don't know, it's one of those things the artist is an artist's call, and Verhoeven is one of these guys who. So Verhoeven is noticeably kind of a hater of Philip K. Dick himself, right? He makes, but he's always like kind of like take these ideas and kind of slash them to bits, and he has always been somewhat mean-spirited, even though politically I kind of agree with him. It has always been a workably mean-spirited take on a lot of his material. So like all of this changing up the stuff, I think it's more that than anything.
Yeah.
It all feel like that.
I also like when it comes to this film, RoboCop and Starship Troopers, right? He very much plays on the idea that you are watching an action movie. So yes, the action is going to be so over the top and gratuitous and visceral and insane. But you had to roll with it, Dred, because it's an action movie, right? So yes, there's a lot of squibs, a lot of blood, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens. People get ripped apart or whatnot, like in Starship Troopers. But look, it's a sci-fi movie. That's what Hollywood makes, right? So it's almost like he's sort of like, doing it almost like to piss off Hollywood. They're like, yeah, this is the kind of shit Hollywood makes. So why are they mad at me, this European guy, for making it so violent? Like, come on, isn't that what you make?
Yeah, it's one of it's a total like cultural thing to it, because like a lot of people don't like Verhoeven for simply that. Like, well, especially his take on Star Trek Troopers, because Star Trek Troopers just took the book and then run it into the end zone of the concept. Like, he just make effectively an argumentum ad absurdum of the book. And his argument is that, look, these books is some fascist bullshit. right? It tried to not say it's fascist bullshit, but it's fascist bullshit. So I'm just going to make it outright fascist bullshit, blatant, in your face about it, almost to the point of parody, a lot of people like that, because they think Philip K. Dick, as an author. I don't think Philip K. Dick himself is a fascist, but like a lot of people think those some of that material is fascist propaganda, at least Starship Troopers, right? And you get into this weird back and forth about this with respect to that. But like in this, how he changed the material, I just think it was just more entertaining. Like it's just a lot of great artistic calls that like just work. But I'll admit, it's because I never really get into the short story. So I don't have any like emotional weight or intellectual like come upon to this short story to care to say that he changed it or care. I don't really give a shit about that kind of authenticity or loyalty, to be fair. And that is interesting. Like why does he make all these weird calls though? But it's more like, it's just the vibe. Like he's a vibe. He get the vibe as it is, and it work. Like even if a lot of people think it is dishonest or intellectually like kind of bad faith to interpret the material like this, I'm not sure. Like why does he get a green light for these products anyway? Did he go out of his way to project it? Because he kind of didn't like it or hated it. Maybe he noticeably hated RoboCop. It's only because his wife wrote it. The wife told him, and she read it and thought it was smart. And he had his own take on it, and so on and so forth. Right? It's one of those things. I don't know. Like it's interesting how as a filmmaker you just come into your own thing and make it work. And for some time it does work and totally be great, even if you make a bunch of changes. Other times it just totally fall flat or just outright revile and he's. And yeah, he's one of those filmmakers that make it work in that sense. I don't know. Like I interested in back and forth. If you don't write your own material, what will happen or why? You make the changes you do. Same thing like Nolan and Batman. Like Nolan does a bunch of changes to Batman. It's a bunch of things that a lot of people don't like core ideas about Batman that they think Nolan ruined Batman in some ways. And I've heard solid arguments as to why that's the case. But because the filmmaking is so good, you don't care. So that is about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, so two quick things, right, before we move on to this story, right? So going back to Paul Verhoeven, I like that, like, just in this period in his career, right? Yeah, he was just taking certain genres and saying, here's what, how can I make them, like, just so over the top dread that, but it still fits within that realm, right? So, like, in the case of, RoboCop and this film here, right? But I would also see same for stuff like Basic Instinct and Showgirls, right? Really pushing the envelope in terms of, hey, what can I get away with this R rating, especially with Basic Instinct and Showgirls? Yeah, how raunchy can I make this show, Jen? How raunchy can I really put, make this story or whatever it is, right? And especially with Showgirls, that man really went above and beyond the Call of Duty to do that, right? But as far as Total Recall, right, especially with the visual effects that we see here, right? I think that it is just basically him and this team of creators just saying, here's what, let's put we heads together and come up with some of the most jaw-dropping visual effects moments that ever was put to film, stuff that we've never seen before, but stuff that is downright weird, Dread, like just weird. That is this, like moments like this, Dread, that is on some Luc Besson Fifth Element kind of shit, just the weirdness of it all, but it still fits within that sci-fi action movie mold, right? Where, yeah, even as weird as the characters are or the moments are, you're still enjoying it for what it is, right? So I like that he plays those, he balances those moments out very well, right? So let's talk about the last resort for a bit, right? So, Doug ends up in this hotel, and then he gets this safety deposit box, and there's this flyer for the last resort, and on the back, well, Hauser, he basically wrote and say, hey, look for a woman named Melina, right? So yeah, on the way down to this place, down to the last resort, he meets a popular character by the name of Benny, right? AKA, I got 5 kids to feed. That's he.
Right.
He got 5 kids to feed, right? I know him from another show though, to be honest, but I can't remember right now, right? But it's funny that he reminded me of the black limo driver from Die Hard, right? Where he's the comic relief, but he kind of eventually helps out, right? In quotes, right? So I like that, right? And yeah, he takes him to Venusville, right? Which is basically the red light district of Mars, right? And for me, I thought this was a great piece of world building here where you get the sense that this is a socio-economic society we're seeing here, right? It's not just, people on Mars doing mining and some other people living, but then you learn later on people had to buy air dread. Buy breathable air from Cohegan Dread. I'm like, what the fuck? This man selling air, no? You know what I mean? That real dread, boy.
They reveal how it is he could sell air at all.
Yeah.
In the thing. They learn later how it is he could sell it for the cheap. Well, he make it for the cheap, but sell it on the expense. But they make it work and just as an underclass, like a really great workable underclass.
Yes.
No different from like how we think about water, whatever it is. the idea that something should be at least abundant, and it's not, and there's just that settle. But it works. I thought this is a great like setting up of the underclass, and you get to meet some weirdos.
Yes.
You explain how mutants. They introduce the mutants for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
They explain how mutants are, why they are the way they are, because it's about
Yeah, the psychic. The psychic. Well, yeah, majority of them are psychic. Sorry.
No, but they get that, they learn that later. But what is that? Why it is that they are the way they are because of the early domes. The domes weren't designed particularly well. A lot of radiation exposure affect them over time, and that's it. So they were built on the cheap, and so on and so forth. So they set that up really well.
Yeah.
It's a good like they set up the underclass aspect of this, and so the whole class dynamic of where Verhoeven just talk about.
Right.
That's his film.
And then going back to the technical aspect of things. The prosthetics though, just the makeup. That done for the mutants look very well. Very, very well done, right? So of course, the most memorable moment in this last resort thing is Mary, right? The hooker with the 3 boobs, right? Yes. And I'll throw this out.
I also got a Family Guy bit. Who you'll go with, and he's like, that chick with the 3 boobs, one of them is paper mache, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
Yes,
I remember that.
Right.
I remember that. Right. So I'll throw this out there, right? Agree to disagree, right? I don't think that there's a man alive, Dread, who saw that moment, regardless of whether he saw it back in 1990, 95, or whatever it is, right? From then till now, and completely forgot about that moment. There's no way. I would make the argument that no mere man, no mortal man saw that scene and ultimately forgot about it years afterwards. It is so memorable, Jay, because of just how brazen it is. Again, this is pure Paul Verhoeven. Just saying, chick with 3 boobs, right? And the biggest compliment I will give this shit is that they looked very lifelike. They looked very real.
Yeah.
They look very, very, very real. I'll give them that. I'll give that. They look real. They look real, right? But yeah, boy, the balls, I have to say balls, right? The balls have a moment like this, right? And especially Mary literally like just unbuttoning she top and just showing it in front of Douglas too. That is ballsy. But this last point I'll make, right? I like how laser focused he is on meeting Melina Drake. He's like, I don't care. Thank you, but no thank you. I don't care. I'm here for a reason. Leave me alone. Right, go. I love that. But yeah, thoughts on Mary?
Yeah. That's a classic like internet moment. It stick with you, and it really funny and well done. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, right? So about Melina, right? Who is played by Rachel Ticotin, right? If I got this name wrong, forgive me, right? No lie, I think this is like the only movie I know of her at all. But yeah, she is like gorgeous in this movie, Jen. She look great, right? It looked great in this story. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm wrong, forgive me, right? She's Latina, right?
Right.
I think she looks so. And it kind of reminds me of this trope in like mid-80s to like early 90s action movies where the love interest of the action hero does not have to be a Caucasian woman. It could be, or to say the woman who tags along, right? So I'll try example. Commando, right? Yeah, the woman who was with her, Ray Dun Chong, right? Is not white. Is not white, right?
Right.
So it's like that now. So it's like, let me just cast a non-Caucasian actress to play the love interest. I think it works.
What's her name? In Predator as well.
Or Predator 2. Or Predator 2, right?
Predator 1.
Predator 1, right? There was the Latina girl there.
Yeah.
In Predator 2, I remember there was this one girl. What her name was? Maria Alonso, I think her name was. Yeah, she was alongside Danny Glover, right? With that. But yeah, I like the idea of just casting wise. I think that really works, right? And I like that they play on the whole double agent thing, right? Because she knows him as Hauser, right? And he's saying, well, I was Hauser, but I'm now going by Douglas Quaid, right? And the lovers quarrel that they have, which makes sense. I think it works, right? Because you go and say, well, I was married, and she, what? You were married? Like, fuck you, and basically kick him out of the room that she was in. But I like that. I like that little bit of like romantic tension that's set up there, right? And then we get another great twist now, where this twist though really, really works here, where Doug goes back to his hotel room, right? And then Dr. Edgema, right, this recall representative shows up, right, and pretty much telling him that you are still in the chair and you are just going through this paranoid delusion, Dread. So you basically playing things out in your mind, Dre, but you're still strapped to this chair, and I am here as this digital avatar, basically, to try to talk you out of it. And then it gets worse because Laurie pops up and tells him, look, you need to wake up, you need to wake up, right? So, slight little detail here, right? In the 2012 movie, boy, did they fuck this moment up.
Thank
Bad?
you.
I was like, what? What is this?
That don't work at all, Dre. You see, the problem is that, look, when Dick wrote it, it was a clever idea. But like you had to make it more interesting and actually have it like fake out now of what's going on. But like, holy shit, I remember that 2012 version was so bad. Eh?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's all it is.
And poor Bokeem Woodbine, who plays Harry, right? You know, the co-worker, right?
Yeah.
Just in a nutshell, right? Dude comes in, right, doing the shootout, right? Or the police outside about to arrest Douglas, right? And he there with Melina, right? And Harry comes in and he's saying, look, dog, paranoid delusion, blah, blah, you need to wake up, right? But here's what, you gotta believe that this thing, what you're seeing here is not real, right? So here's what you need to do to fully wake out of it, right? You need to kill Melina. The moment I heard that, I nearly turned off that movie, I was like, Huss, how is that supposed to convince the man that what he is seeing is fake? How? And Laurie comes inside, pretty much telling him, look, just put the gun down and come outside. Come outside, and that ends the delusion. No, now Harry come and say, look, shoot Melina, and that's how you break out of it. Of course, he'll see through it, dog. That's why, don't disrespect the Bokeem. That's why Harry get a headshot, Dread. Dumbass. Yeah, but anyway, it was dumb, boy. It was real dumb.
Yeah, in this they do a better job with it. So
yeah, to the point that even I and all believe it, I and all was believing it too. I was like, wait, nah, man. Yeah, sorry, go on.
But they set it up, and then when Arnold see him sweating, like,
yes, and that is such a great moment there because all through this, you hearing this man talking all this jargon, like, Huss, what if he is still strapped to that chair? And then I had to mention this, right? Doctor gave the man a red pill. I was like, Wachowskis. I see you, Wachowskis. I see where you got the red pill from. That's where they got the red pill from, right? Exactly. It's same purpose, right? Yes, where you see the truth. That's where it is. I was like, all right, Wachowskis, I see you, right? But yeah, that moment where they zero in on the man sweating, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
He didn't even have to say a word. He just saw that sweat going, and then one shot, blow. I was like, yes, that is what he had to do. And then he spit the when he take it, he put it in his mouth, but then he see the sweat, shoot him, and then spit it back out. I was like, yes, that is how you do a nice fake out. That's how you do misdirection. I think that this moment, before we get to the action scene that follows, right? I think that this moment is so brilliant in terms of writing, in terms of editing, pacing, tension, everything works here, right? But yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on this whole fake out thing?
Yeah, it's a kind of popular trope, of that, right? The running joke about it. It just so happened to like work out the conceit of what it is you think about when the idea of a red pill and a blue pill. It's a popular trope, like red this, blue that, and so on. So yeah, we know they lifted a lot from the Matrix, and I mean it's the old Descartes stuff and whatever. It's all about shit, right? The usual philosophy crap, right? But yeah, there's a good scene, really strong. It's again sets the tension up of you having to trust what it is you're watching, right, for the audience, and it does a great job of that because he have to it's a spy thriller, so you have to have your wits about you. But then if this is fake, and that this one fake thing could really throw off all the decisions that you made from the prior or going forward, and that is what I like about it. They set that up really well, but then you have to kind of trust his gut and then go forward with what's going on, and again, it's all paid off at the end, and I like that. So yeah.
Yeah, so of course, a big action scene takes place. Laurie, the goons show up right after Laurie reveal, I trying to kill you. I still trying to kill you, right? Then Melina shows up in the nick of time to save Doug. She get a little moment to fight Laurie, so you get a body on body match. That was really cool as well. But I love where Doug was knocked out at that point in time, right? And then he wakes up and Laurie, Doug pick up his gun and aim it at Laurie, right? Then Laurie says, Petey was trying to talk him out of it now. He says, honey, we're married, right? And then, one shot to the head too. And of course, because of that Schwarzenegger movie, he had to drop a one-liner. Consider this a divorce. Ba-doom, I love it. That's clever. That's clever. It's cheesy, but it's clever. I like that, right? We got a great chase scene with the heroes and the bad guys, where eventually the heroes run into this. Basically, the people at the last resort now put them in the secret compartment, right? And then Richter and his goons show up, and then they ask for Dog's whereabouts, right? Mary boy had to pop up now and say, "I know what you're talking about," and then she shows she tits now. And then as she turned she back, though, Richter shoot the girl and she back in her. I was
Right.
like, dog, Richter, dog. Like, Richter, Dread. I know he's an asshole, Dread, but why though? But to be fair, he was very, very pissed off at the fact that, Laurie, his girlfriend, got killed, right? But yeah, boy, you didn't need to shoot Mary in the back, man. Like, come on, dog. Come on, right? And then we get this all-out shootout now with the people, with the patrons at the last resort, and then the cops show up as well. There's this one moment where you see this little person, grab a gun and start busting shots and all that kind of thing, right? But because it's Paul Verhoeven and everything had to be so over the top, right? I was just watching this, like, this is like RoboCop all over again, though, where the squad of cops just gunning down, like hammering down RoboCop with a set of bullets. It felt just like that, though, where, all of them just rushed, this outside, busting shots, though, and just real people getting killed, though.
There's a scene later about that. With the hologram. So that is what that reminded me of, actually.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes, I know what you're talking about, right? Cohagen pretty much called Richter and say, call things off, right? But then Cohagen now being a bigger asshole now, the man just cut off the air dread in Venusville. So all the survivors now, like, struggling to breathe. I'm like, wow, boy. Again, these corporate assholes, right? So let's talk about Kuatu for a bit, right? So when Doug finally meets the resistance fighters, right? So his dog is Melina and his Benny, right? He tags along as well, right? He runs into one of his leaders, right? Called George, right? I'll never forget seeing this for the first time, right? Because you're like, who is Kuatu, right? And then you learn right before that even Benny's a mutant as well too, right? Because he have this sort of like, I want to say alien hand, but sort of a clawish kind of arm, right? Very not crab-like, but very, sort of like I'll just say for now, very crab-like in terms of how it looks and whatnot. Right?
It look like a kind of praying mantis kind of thing. I'm sure.
Yeah, very, very praying mantis. Like with the way how it bends at the hand, right? Yeah, but yeah, boy. They find out what Kuatu is. So just basically this Siamese twin of sorts of George, right? But is when it's revealed that it come out that it's growing, literally grew out of the guy's abdomen shred. You're like, wow, but the first time you see that's something.
Rick and Morty made fun of this moment.
Yes, I was gonna bring up that, right? Yes, and I'll bring up the moment that they make fun of, right? But yeah, that reveal of Kuatu, though, and again, prosthetics, creature design, it works, right? Cause it's a literal mutant face inside this man's stomach, right? And for the life of me, I was wondering, oh gosh, it's Krang from Ninja Turtles, right? I was wondering if the character Krang came up before Total Recall. I don't know, but I feel like Krang was inspired by that or something. I don't know, right? Yeah. But yes, going back to Rick and Morty, right, is the moment where Kuatu is telling Doug, right, because it is psychic as well, to open your mind. Yes, I remember that Rick and Morty episode where you had Morty. Yeah, Morty had a Kuatu character. He's like, open your mind. He just kept saying, open your mind. But yeah, that open your mind moment is great though. But I think really why that moment really sells, of course, is just Kuatu, just that design dread. But yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on Kuatu, just Kuatu in general.
Yeah, there's a great like reveal, like what Kuatu is like. You thought he was just some guy and he's like a powerful guy, but they flip it on you. They do the Yoda thing, right? They make him out as a great leader, but then it makes perfect sense he being the leader of this underground group because he's a mutant himself. And well, the big part of it is this is where the plot device, they kind of work as a reverse plot device to sort out all the Total Recall stuff, because they're psychic, so they could piece together if who telling the truth and what's fake and what's not. They have a good way of filtering that out now, and he himself. So yeah, there's where things have to become clearer, and it's time to say, okay, this is how to sort out the narrative. And yeah, it's a solid beat. It's a great reveal, actually.
Yes. And what you see in this reveal now is that there's this underground reactor, but we learn later on what it's about, right? So yeah, third act time. This is where shit hits the fan, right? So the authorities bust in, they start shooting up the place, they kill everybody. and they pretty much leave Kuatu/George for last, right? Richter shows up and just busts a shot in Kuatu's head. You're like, God damn, right? But right before Kuatu dies, he tells Doug, activate the reactor. That's what he's told, right? But prior to that, though, I forgot this thread. Is when you find out Benny was working for Cohegan. Just like, God damn, Dread, right? And then the man had the goal, like Melina asked him, how can you do this, right? And the man say, I got 4 kids to feed, right? And the dog is like, I told you to say 5. It's like, oh, you got me, man. I was like, fuck you, Benny. Fuck you, right?
That's totally selfish. That's pure sellout.
Yeah, boy. But I forgot about that heel too, né? For real. But I forgot about that boy. But yeah, fuck that guy, right? But yeah, so our heroes get captured or whatnot, right?
But it goes a little deeper than that, to be fair. Like what it is going on. When they do the final twist and final
yes, boy. And no liar.
That might work because it's
that
like,
moment, boy, I was like, wow. Wow movie, right? So yes, folks, Hauser, as in the real identity of Douglas Quaid, right, was in on it from the very beginning because he actually was still working with Cohegan.
Yeah, but it's his plan. I mean,
it was his plan, yeah.
He's effectively the mastermind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I forget why he choose himself over the other guy instead of Ronnie Cox doing the whole gambit. But I think the idea is that I think they didn't know who he was. So that's why the idea was just to get close to
Kuatu, yeah. It was to reveal where he was. Right, that's what it was.
Right, to kill him, right. And, because they didn't know what it was. But the idea is to just do this layers upon layers just to get undercover, just to get to Kuatu eventually.
Yeah.
In a long thing. And so even the guild didn't believe him at that point. No. And she was right too, because it was part of it. But he himself didn't know.
Right.
That's why this is a really interesting character because a hero, because it's like, well, he himself, the villain, creates the hero, and then it turns on him in a fast way. And it makes it work in that sense. As I said, they explained it's only Michael Ironside's character that's kind of mucks it up a little bit because he was really after him. But then they addressed that later. I thought that was okay. That part where he punched him is right before he get back his memories. It's funny.
Yeah. But what get me though is that everything that you saw, right down to the guy with the suitcase, all that stuff was planned, The only thing that just sort of messed things up, what threw off the plan now was Doug's reaction to him being in the chair.
Right.
Him spazzing out. Right. That's what threw off everything. But he was supposed to play everything out and then go to Mars, meet Kuatu, and then boom, that was it, But because he spazzed out, that's where everything sort of threw off, right?
Exactly.
But I love Doug's line that he says to Cohegan where he says, I have to hand it to you, it's the best mind fuck yet. That's true. That's true. Because it really throws the audience completely by surprise, Jen. I love that.
Yeah. As I said, it's a slightly clumsy plan. Like it's a little too rigmarole, but the idea was because of Kuatu's nature, Kuatu would have sniffed them out anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So they really had to it's kind of like Inception. You know, you had to go down multiple layers to make it feel real now. That aspect of it. No. That's how I interpret that.
Right.
That whole sequence. The person you had to fool was Kuatu himself, because I'm sure if Kuatu just got access to the person, they would have sniffed them out one time. No.
Yeah.
That's basically it. So the script still works. It still mostly worked for it. I was making nitpick what could have happened one way or the other, but I think it mostly worked for it. Especially back then. Back then I definitely wouldn't have think about that shit. So it's like it don't matter. Now when we all these fans who overthinking and they have effectively do have a job. They just overthinking the scripts. It's fine. Like it's they make that work for what it was. So I dug it as it is. So, yeah.
So of course Hauser being the asshole that he is just like, here's what, right? Through the voice, through another video recording. It's like, I want my body back, bitch. So yeah, goons now strap Doug to the chair, and then Cohegan, boy, is just like, here's what, right? I gonna strap Melina to another chair now, and then by the time we done with you, you're gonna be Hauser Geldren. We gotta make sure that you are going to be obedient.
Right.
Like I just paraphrase here. But the moment he said that, I was like, fuck you, Cohegan. Fuck you, huh?
Yeah, that in a little 2 levels of sexism, of course, right?
Yeah, boy. Right. Yeah, boy. My God, right? So while the process is about to happen, right? What catch me though is that Doug just like firing up, like fighting, right? Man literally rips off one of the metal straps though, and he used it to kill the scientist. You're like, what?
It's typical. Yeah, is it typical, as usually typical James Bond Dr. Evil nonsense where you had to leave.
You had to leave the room.
Yeah, of course. You and then you had two guards on guard. They have no good reason for them to do that. Dumb.
I know, yeah. But what catch me again is that he actually pull off that metal strap though, and just used it to kill like the scientist there, right? So yeah, of course, he save Melina, and action insanity ensues, right? Benny, actually gets drilled, right? And I would not lie, right? It's a goofy scene in the sense that it is Arnold pretty much going up against Benny, who is in this gigantic drill machine, right? And he really like trying to duck and avoid the drill, but he gets like injured in the process, right? But it's how he takes and I guess, is the script saying this is why he's a construction worker, folks. This is why, right? Yeah, he takes up this manual drill of his own, right? And they're thinking, all right, you're gonna use this to stop the machine? Nah, man, right? But then he goes inside now and drills the inside, right? And yeah, he had to drop the line, right? As a line that, as goofy as it is, I defend, given the context. Screw you! Yeah,
Right.
dude gets screwed, right? I was like, all right, yeah, it works because it's over the top, and even though you don't see like the drill going into Benny's insides or whatever, but you know what happening because of his reaction, right? But yeah, the screw you line is goofy as fuck, but I'll let it slide because it's 1990, right? And yeah, boy, after that we get this kick-ass shootout scene in the reactor room, well, the underground reactor room, right? And yeah, as honest trailers say, yes, you could tell that this is the inspiration behind the fight. Well, sorry, the shootout in the Matrix, right, with Neo and Trinity and the guards in the basement. No, that scene. You could tell that's what you get the inspiration from, right? Where characters ducking behind pillars, firing shots, and bullets and all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, it's a great scene though. But what I love about it though is that Doug uses the hologram device dread, right? And
Yeah.
minor nitpick, right? There's a moment where you see two groups, like let me just say about groups of three, right? And they're firing at Doug, but you see like he cowering down, like he getting hit, right? And then he wakes up, he start laughing, ha 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 ha, right? And then eventually the real one come and shoot all of them, right? Now I wouldn't like nitpick at while I was watching this. I was like, but if it's a hologram, shouldn't all the soldiers get killed? Because who they firing at isn't real, right? But the show kind of address that afterwards though, where Melina get the same device though, and then there's these two soldiers that should do the same exact thing, and both soldiers get killed because they shoot each other, right? So I'll let that moment slide. I'll let slide, right?
Yeah, because I think the logic was that it's supposed to look like he getting shot anyway, so they keep shooting. But like I thought they should have probably shoot each other, and like one of them would have recognized that. However,
yeah.
But I think the idea is that in the chaos of the gunfire, you don't know if you could shoot yourself because people shoot each other. Friendly fire happen all the time.
That's true. Yeah.
It looked like he shoot him. Doug the hologram Doug, he really shoot somebody. It's not friendly fire. So that's what it was.
Yeah.
However, it's fine.
And we get this great. I swear this is like a meta line or improv line or something like that, right? Where Doug now being a little bit of an asshole himself, right? Come up to some soldiers laughing at, and he's like, "You think this is a real quid? It is." I blast him, Dread. I'm like, wow, boy. Like, this is Doug showing off a bit of... He be an asshole at this point, too, but it's justified, though. I love that. That is so meta, in my opinion, right? And you can tell this is Paul Verhoeven pretty much winking at the camera, like, yeah, you like that shit, eh? You know you like that shit. Don't front.
Yeah,
you like what you see. You like seeing Arnold gun down a bunch of people, right? That's why I be in this movie, right? You like that shit. Don't tell me this is ultra-violent. Shut up, right? Anyway, so Doug and Richter have an appropriately vicious fight as well in this elevator, and it ends pretty much in this final destination like kind of moment where Richter's arms gets ripped off, right? Because he's dangling outside of the elevator, right? Now, swear to God, I feel like this line was also improved as well to "See you at the party, Richter." I know it's a kind of reference to what Richter said about, when we done it here, Hauser go taking, thing, and we go and party, right? I know that, right? But it comes after the factness. So, like, I feel like they sort of, I don't know, like, I feel it's just, they was trying to figure out a nice line, a nice one-liner for him to say, and he says that. But I'll throw this last point, right? It sort of reminds me of, believe it or not, Bruce Willis in Die Hard, right? There's a moment where he says, "Welcome to the party, pal." It has a similar vibe to it, and it involves, a shootout as well too, right? So I thought that was really interesting as well, right? So yeah, Cohagen now tries to stop Doug because there's a moment now where Doug has to pretty much activate the reactor as well. And what I forgot about is that Cohagen got sucked out of the room first, right? So he
Right.
ends up
Yeah, yeah.
outside on Mars, right? And yeah, he going through the whole out while he losing the breath and he eyes bulging out as well too, right? And then now, as Dog activates it, yeah, the impact of that, and basically it involves, well, the pillars, right? Actually, let me just say ice, like blocks of ice there. So they're being melted and they're just being evaporated and pretty much sent out into Mars atmosphere, right? But yeah, in the
Right.
process,
So
it's kind
where
of
you find
weird.
out, yeah. No, where you find out is right is that he was hiding that information the entire time. So
Right,
it
yeah.
was looking. They could have not only provide free oxygen, but basically
Water.
um, terraform the planet,
Or terraform,
the
yeah,
entire
yeah,
planet.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
terraform the whole planet and make it work. Again, we could debate about, again, it's the science at the time and whatever it is, so you don't have to fight on that. But yeah, I thought it was a good reveal to happen. And this is what Kwato, I think, was talking about the entire time.
Yes.
It's like cool.
Exactly. And I like visually though how it just feels like it's just these bursts of oxygen, Dread. It just feels like almost like volcanic lightning, how they burst into the air and how they go into the atmosphere and sort of changing the structure of it and whatnot, right? So of course, Doug and Melina are out in the sand as well, out in the desert. And I found it really interesting that Cohagen died. Like he already dead, by the time they got
Too much
shutted
time,
out.
yeah. They don't turn on the machine yet, so he run out of time.
Yeah, exactly. So of course both of them bulging out and they're like, that kind of stuff, and it looks very effective. Even when you see Melina, like when she eyes bulge out too, it really works. Right? Some great prosthetics there, right? But I love though that is the atmosphere change, and so eventually when oxygen is brought in now or reintroduced, if you will, that's when they turn back to normal. I like that, right? And yeah, we could talk about the color palette and whether it's a blue screen or whatever it is, but I kind of like the sort of greenish blue sky that you get at the end. I like that. It's surreal, but it works. I like that, right? And then going back to the citizens in Venusville, right? Yeah, I like that this is the moment of hope, right? Because it feels at first like, oh, the world's coming to an end, right? Okay, seeing all these earthquakes and the domes crashing and all that kind of thing, and people are scampering for their lives, right? But then when everything settles, you get this sense of hope, Dread. You feel like, all right, yeah, boy, like things change, right? Like we live, we are alive, right? And it just works. It absolutely works, right? I just love that. That's to wrap things up now. Yeah, with Doug saying, is this a dream? And she's like, kiss me before, I think it's kiss me before you find out, or kiss me before you wake up, or something like that, right? It just ends like that. Right. That's a great end. Yeah. So at the very end, you are still wondering if what you're seeing here is a dream or not, right? Right. Just to get to final thoughts, right? So I will mention quickly, right after this, after I watched Total Recall, I watched a review that the late great Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel gave, right? So Roger Ebert, believe it or not, actually loved the film. He gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars, right? Gene didn't like it that much because he felt the show was relying too much on warning, is this a dream? And he couldn't buy into whether what he was seeing was real or not, right? Ebert was saying that it doesn't matter. It's just about the entertainment. It's just about playing with, is it a dream, is it not, right? So for me, if one were to ask me the question, is all the Mars stuff a dream or not? I don't think it is. I think it did happen, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I like that the show still plays on, maybe he is still strapped into that chair where he was at the very beginning, right? But then that brings up the question, the whole spazzing out thing, did that happen? Or is that part of the dream? That I would throw that question out there, because that's the one thing that sort of, for me, I feel like that's what you have to ask every time you say, oh, is the rest of the film that you see from that point on real or not, right? I think that what you see from the rest of the film is real, right? But if it is a dream, then, well, the question really is, where does it start? Does it start with him spazzing out, or does it start with him on the chair to begin with, right? That's the question. I'll throw it out there, right? But I don't want to spend a lot of time theorizing things about that, right? But yeah, for me, I had an absolute blast recapping this, though. I forgot about how fun this was, how wild it was. It is a summer blockbuster, true and true, right? For me, seeing this as what it was, a 1990 film, right? You could tell, right? This was like just a bunch of creators, Dread, just stretching imagination, just really pushing themselves, in terms of prosthetics, in terms of creature design, in terms of or costumes, in terms of just the world building and just the visual effects that you see, right? In terms of the action and just how everything is put together, right? You could tell like they just went above and beyond the Call of Duty to make this as big, as large, and as over the top as possible, right? And yeah, it is a grander movie. That one really shocked me though. This how big this movie feels though. This really feels like just this non-stop action-packed summer blockbuster. Dread. Like I would imagine like if I was like older and I saw this in theaters, I would have thought this was like the best shit I ever saw in my life. Dread. And then to think that the year after that I would see Terminator 2, I probably thought the same thing, right? But yeah, this is probably one of the best summer blockbuster movies I have ever seen, right? In terms of just the spectacle of it, the thrills, non-stop thrills though, and how despite all the thrills and the violence and all that, right, it still tells this very clever, very intelligent story, right? Where it's not like the most like intelligent story ever, right? But I love how it still plays on the idea of, is this real? What we're seeing here is real. Should we trust Douglas Quaid, or was Hauser right all along, right? All that kind of stuff. It keeps playing that from start to end, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, gives one of the best performances ever, right? I love that he plays the everyman, but at the same time you buy into him, sort of reacting to things like, yeah, you try to shoot me, I gonna grab a gun and shoot you, bitch. So you get that from him, right? And you buy into him being the heel as well, right? You know, so he plays those things very, very well, right? You know, supporting cast great as well, right? Ronnie Cox and Michael Ironside, great villains as well. Sharon Stone, yeah, great heel turn from her as well too, right? You know, and it just makes for just a highly entertaining movie, right? So I don't know if people were turned off by the violence or if they were turned off by, you know, the supposed sexism in it. But I don't think that there were people who walked out of that film like, wow, I was not entertained by that movie at all, right? The movie was designed to entertain. I think that it did that to a teacher. And yeah, I have no problem saying that this is one of the best sci-fi action movies ever made, in my opinion. One of the best summer blockbuster movies ever made, in my opinion. And yeah, just a pure example of 90s filmmaking. This is like Hollywood saying, look, like if you want to know, like this is like the beginning of the 90s. This is like, here's what. This is what you're gonna get for the next 10 years, right? Just grand, epic, like action filmmaking. You're gonna get that, right? I'll close this. I could see that now, kind of parallel now with the tail end now with 1999, and of course the release of what is your favorite action movie of all time, The Matrix, right? So you could see that just that evolutionary phase start with something like Total Recall, right? And then going into stuff like like Terminator 2 Judgment Day and ending off with The Matrix, right? So you could see that, right? Say hands down one of the best action movies ever made, one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. Strong 4.5 out of 5. This movie slaps. This movie works. 35 years from now, yeah, this movie still holds up, right? Yes, it is dated in terms of looks and, you know, dialogue and all that kind of stuff, right? But it just, in terms of the scale of it all, though, that's the grandiosity of it all, though, it absolutely works in my opinion, right? So yeah, love this film. So Ricardo, final thoughts written on Total Recall, the one that matters.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this movie. Again, it's all the Arnoldisms and Verhoeven's look and take that make it really work. It's a lot of fun. I didn't expect. I would give it a rewatch. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as it does. Like, it had all these little moments. Again, the Arnoldisms is what make it funny too. Like, that's what just make it work. And yeah, it's genuine.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, there's like there was some things when he had to die. Was it the way with the car? Yeah, but they make it work, and it's genuinely funny stuff. As it is, but it's a good solid enough sci-fi script. It's interesting. It's a lot smarter than I remember it to be. I was thinking, oh, it was just like a lame fake out, and then that was it. Oh no, it was a lot smarter than I remember it as the plot line. I've seen it in years, and I don't forget a lot of the details. But now watching it back, I was like, oh yeah, right, this is like a solid and a smart script than I remembered. As it is, yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, well, what would you rate it, man? You know, in a retrospect.
Yeah, in a retrospect, it's probably a 9 out of 10. I had a lot of fun with it. I really enjoyed this if I saw this at the time, for what it was. So it's that.
Right.